All right, folks, you're watching The Real News. I'm Harrison Smith. I'm sitting in for David Knight, and in a blatant and transparent attempt to grab ratings, I am now joined by Darrin McBreen by popular request. And you've prepared a couple videos for us. We're going to talk about how this censorship is nothing new, right? This is
it's been going on for a long time. So they're using the same propaganda tactics that they've been using for a very long time, all the way back to Edward Bernays. And he was the father of propaganda. Right. And he wrote the book on propaganda. This goes all the way back to the early 1920s. In fact, we might as well play that clip right now. But it's basically Edward Bernays. Once the government saw what he was capable of doing, they recruited him big time. And like I said, he wrote the book on propaganda. And these are the same techniques that are being used to manipulate you and your family. They called it the engineering of consent. And this is how the elite control the masses. Check this out.
To better understand the current state of modern-day media manipulation, we must first look at the father of propaganda, Edward Bernays. His influence on the 20th century rivaled that of his uncles, Sigmund Freud, as Bernays pioneered the idea of crowd psychology with Freud's psychoanalytical ideas in what would become a new political ideal on how to control the masses. In his 1928 book, Propaganda, Bernays wrote, "If we understand the mechanisms and motives of the group mind, it is now possible to control and regiment the masses according to our will without them knowing it." He called it the engineering of consent and proposed that those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. It was Bernays who introduced the corporate giants to crowd psychology methods and polished techniques to manipulate society. He convinced the population to buy on impulse things they didn't even need by linking mass-produced goods to their own unconscious desires. The tobacco industry hired Bernays to persuade women to take up smoking, and the Alcoa Aluminum Company asked him to drive the campaign for the national fluoridation of our water supply. A consumerist culture was born, and the U.S. government took notice. In addition to famous corporate giants, Bernays also began working for the federal government. They adopted his technique of manufacturing ever-present dangers and then maintaining a constant state of fear to give those in power greater control of what Bernays called the mass mind.
Edward Bernays, who's the father of modern advertising and propaganda, he literally wrote the book, Propaganda. Joseph Goebbels, on record, the Nazi propaganda minister, used a lot of his information and twisted it to his own designs. Bernays was the chief psychological warfare expert for more than 20 years, advising the Department of War. He advised them to call it defense. Don't be honest anymore. Call it the Department of Defense, because you're actually going to run giant imperial slaughter operations.
Propaganda is the executive arm of the invisible government, Edward Bernays. Wow. So, and like I said, and listen to that. He called it the herd mentality. He said the social engineers, the invisible government, they're the ones that are running the entire country. That was back in the 20s and 30s.
Right. Yeah. And it's only gotten worse since then. It's only gotten more fascistic with the corporations working just hand in hand with the government now. And that's one thing that I don't know why people don't realize this fact, that it's not between the government and corporations. It's not, well, I'm a libertarian, so corporations can do everything they want, and I'm a socialist, so government should be in charge of everything. Yeah. It's like they're one and the same. They're one and the same. They work together. Google visited Obama's White House, 400, 500 times in a year or something? I mean,
they go to the UN meetings.
Exactly.
There's that infamous quote. Zuckerberg met with Merkel at a UN meeting, and they were caught on a hot mic. Remember, this was during the Obama administration, and she asked him, hey, what are you doing about all these negative comments on Facebook about the Muslim migration? And he says, we're working on it. We're going to take care of that. That they caught them on a hot mic. And look, Joseph Goebbels, we just played Edward Bernays. Well, Hitler's propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels, he's like, wow, this is brilliant. I'm going to adopt the same techniques. And, they said that basically the Nazis wouldn't have been able to take over if it wasn't for their capability to control the media.
Right.
It was essential. You had to be able to control the media. And virtually every media outlet in Nazi Germany was controlled by the social engineers. They controlled the radio stations, the movies, the newspapers, the reporters, even the music, even churches.
Right.
So, and this is how they were able to pretty much get everybody to support this ruthless dictator. And I want to list a couple of bullet points from Joseph Goebbels' propaganda playbook, right? And tell me if this doesn't sound like today's modern day leftist propaganda. But number one, the bigger the lie, the more people will believe it. That's Joseph Goebbels said that. If you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. Donald Trump colluded with the Russians to steal the election.
Every day in our daily life, yeah.
And check this one out. Number 3 is tell a big lie, focus and repeat until the audience repeats it in their sleep.
Wow. Is that Goebbels or was that Saul Alinsky? Which?
Well, this according to, and I got this from Cheryl Atkinson. It's a great book called The Smear. And so she doesn't really go into too much of a Saul Alinsky, but no, the same principles. Look, these guys all copy from each other. So Saul Alinsky probably said the same thing in Rules for Radicals. And they basically, in Rules for Radicals, Saul Alinsky, who, Hillary Clinton, that was her mentor, right? She wrote her college thesis on it and everything, which, by the way, was suppressed for years and years until after Clinton left office. And then they went ahead and published it.
It was a conspiracy theory before that.
Oh, yeah, it didn't exist. We're all crazy. It makes you wonder what Obama wrote about because all those records are sealed as well.
Absolutely.
So, but this Saul Alinsky, his tactic was basically treat your enemies or accuse your enemies for the same crimes that you're committing yourself.
Right.
Right.
So with the Democratic Party now, we have this marriage of like Goebbels and Saul Alinsky, where it's like the big lie that they're doing is what they themselves did, right?
Exactly.
The big lie is Trump colluded with the Russians. They drive it home until people are saying it in their sleep, just like Goebbels said. And then in reality, they're the ones who colluded with Russia to get the dossier to try to frame Trump. It's this perfect marriage of all things totalitarian.
Back when Bill Clinton, people were accusing him of having an illegitimate child with Denny Williams, right? Then what he does is he launches the Deadbeat Dad Act at the same time. So it's kind of just the way they work it.
Right.
So it's crazy. Incredible. So every time they do something, it's like, okay, it's usually like I said, it's usually something that they're guilty of themselves.
Right.
So now, where does as far as the phrase conspiracy theorist or conspiracy theory, that comes from the CIA. They started that in an internal 1967 memo to combat the JFK assassination conspiracy theorists.
Right.
These books and films were gaining in popularity. The majority of Americans were starting to question the official narrative. So we now have their internal memos to the CIA station chiefs. And one of the directives was go tell our embedded reporters in the CIA that they need to act on this as well during, in television and all that. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Operation Mockingbird, where the CIA had embedded employees and operatives all throughout the media back in the 60s.
It's a system. It's a program. It's been in place for decades, and it's all crumbling. It's fantastic to see. You're here on the front lines with us at the InfoWar, Infowars.com/show. Send the link to all your friends.
Hey, how would you like to take InfoWars with you wherever you go? Well, now you can do just that with the new official InfoWars app. And here's the best part. It is absolutely free. At the Apple Store and Google Play, you can join the InfoWar today. Check it out right now at Infowars.com/app.
It's the InfoWars official app. taken on the globalist at point blank range. And with your help spreading it, and with your help downloading it, we are unstoppable.